What is going on, guys, and welcome to For the EXP, a YouTube channel dedicated to Dungeons and Dragons and tabletop gaming all alike. My name is Brendan. I will be your host slash dungeon master for this show, and today is a new episode of Campaign Diaries. And if you have not seen my campaign prologue video, I highly encourage you watch that video first before you watch this first campaign diary to help you understand the way my world works in this campaign known as Astria, a nation divided. Now let's go ahead and just jump right into this and begin by explaining to you who the players were. There was Ailon, a Summer Eladrin sorcerer from the Feywild; Renoween, a High Elven rogue; Mercana, the Goliath druid who was from Kara, which is you could see on the map in the campaign prologue video; Durgan, a human cleric; Norik, a dwarf fighter; and Alton, a halfling bard. Now, their journey began on a lone wagon heading through the Grimyock Bog. I think I called it, Grimyock Bog. And they were heading towards Blood Gulch Crossing from the port city known as Solaris. Now, whatever their reasons were from being in Solaris to going to Blood Gulch Crossing, they had to decide on their own. I left that up to them. Now, they were on a wagon owned by a red-haired dwarf named Brynjolf. And he had been traveling for a couple days now, and this particular night was very stormy and very rainy. He ultimately decided that he needed some rest. He had been riding his horse too long, he's been riding on the fumes for too long, and he just needed to warm his body, get some food inside of him, dry his clothes, and rest for the night. Now, through about 30 minutes of more traveling, they eventually came across a lone, old, rotted, abandoned-looking hut in the middle of this swamp. Immediately the party was suspicious, especially Renoween, the High Elven rogue. Being the rogue that he was, he ultimately decided that he was going to sneak up to the hut and decide that he was going to investigate things, make sure it was not inhabited, or if it was inhabited, that they were ready for any surprises. Through great skill checks, he eventually snuck up and made his investigation, discovered that there was a lone gypsy woman living within this hut. They all gathered up in front of the house during this stormy night and knocked on the door, of course, and immediately opened up by this gypsy woman who, for some reason, still was awake at like 3 a.m. at night. But who am I to decide why a woman is up at night? Now, the weird thing about the initial interaction was they introduced themselves, but they never took down the name of the gypsy woman, which was a first for me, because I've never experienced a PC party who didn't ask what the NPC's name actually was. Now, they asked to obviously stay in this hut for the night. They offered to pay her, of course, or give her some kind of trade, but weirdly enough, she did not want coin. She did not want fate. She did not want a material possession in trade for staying at her home. Now, what she did want was a favor in which that would aid her in her current project, which was to make a better healing potion. Now, her idea was using unborn dragonborn embryo to fuse into the potion of healing itself to give it stronger properties and ultimately do better. Now, Durgan, the lawful good human cleric, was immediately against the idea of stealing dragonborn eggs to smash up into a potion and make it into a healing potion for someone else's gain. He immediately was against it completely. Actually, most of the party was against it completely. I think maybe 2 of them were considering it, but eventually they decided through discussion that they were going to lie and accept this deal, but what they said was that they were going to attempt to do this favor for the gypsy woman. Now, where these dragonborn eggs were located in a nearby settlement known as Hafka. Hafka is a complete dragonborn settlement made of caravans, wagons, so it's very traveler-ish, nomadic styled settlement. And way I explained them in the campaign prologue is that they are a very mercantile type race in my world, especially in Astria specifically. They are more like the Khajiit in Skyrim. They weren't trusted anywhere, so they had to sell from wagons. Now, eventually they came to an agreement with the gypsy woman who was very shady right offhand. Everybody was suspicious of this woman. Of course, why would you not be suspicious of a gypsy woman hiding in a hut in the middle of a swamp? One of the few things that was quite interesting to me was that Eilon, the Summer Eladrin sorcerer, immediately noticed right offhand that this gypsy woman's alchemy kit was very busted, very rudimentary, and was like half complete. And so he questioned her very hard about how she planned on creating a health potion with such a shitty potion creation kit, alchemy kit, and her response was that she had magic on her side. Very suspicious for everyone. Most people actually didn't sleep easy that night. They were very worried that she was gonna like kill them in their sleep. But nothing happened actually that throughout the entire night. Everyone was able to get a restful night's sleep so they can continue their journey and getting to Hafka, where they were going to attempt to steal Dragonborn eggs from the denizens of Hafka. As they were preparing to get their day going, a giant hulking humanoid man was walking down the lone road that they were traveling on within the Grimlock Bog. What this basically was is that Mercana, the Goliath Druid, his player, was actually about an hour and a half late to the session. Now, I explained this in the campaign prologue again. This is why I really encourage that you watch the campaign prologue. But he was very late, and so he showed up halfway through the session, so obviously I had to shoehorn him in somewhere. He was walking through the pathway that they were traveling on, and they basically had an interaction to where he was able to be integrated in the group. Ranaween, the half-elven rogue, was immediately suspicious, snuck up on him, made sure he was not an enemy and was safe, introduced him to the group, and voila, he was in the party officially. Began their journey towards the east, towards Hafka, through the rest of the Grimlock Bog. About halfway through, they encountered a single Kenku. If you don't know what a Kenku is, by the way, feel free to watch my Monster Spotlights episode 2, where I tell you all about Kenkus. It had its hand outstretched with a simple dagger in its hand and making noises not of animal or humanoid descent or any real language. It was making a noise of a coin purse clinking together. Eilon had the initial interaction with this first Kenku and gave it some copper, gave it some of its gold so they could be on their way. But no, that wasn't enough. It wanted more. It wanted all of their fortunes. And obviously the party refused, and then 5 more dropped from the treetops above. And initiative began. Now, this was a fairly basic encounter. They were actually had a use. They were actually part of the story, but I wanted to use the Kenku in a way that wasn't... Well, my whole thing was I didn't want to throw orcs at the party. I didn't want to throw kobold at the party. I didn't want to throw goblins at the party. I didn't want to throw those classic, cliche, level 1 encounter type monsters. So I thought Kenku were low enough CR, low enough challenge for the party to handle, which it was actually a pretty tough fight. It was a tougher fight than I actually thought it was. Eilon almost died. He was dropped almost in one hit, I believe, and luckily they had a cleric gun right next to him, healed him up, he survived. Everybody else did quite well. They slaughtered these Kenku pretty quick. Norik took one of the heads of the Kenku for a trophy, and they gathered all the loot off these bodies and went on their merry way. Now, they got to Hafka. They all decided outside the city how they were going to approach this, well, not city, but settlement, how they were going to approach these people, how they were going to basically introduce themselves, and kind of, because they were outsiders, and then they had no intention of stealing anything from them, so they were just basically some wanderers ending up in the only settlement close to the hut that they were staying at. And Eilon, being a sorcerer that he has a dragon lineage for his how he got his sorcerer abilities, and he actually had got it from a silver dragon according to his backstory, and so he has these silver scales. So he spotted a silver dragon to approach because he would have better charisma checks against this Silver Dragonborn so it'd be easier to talk to. And basically we ended the session with them approaching this Silver Dragonborn. I usually typically run 3 to 5 hour sessions, so my campaign diary should be relatively short. I try to keep things simplified and summarized, so if this was shorter than you expected, then I apologize. I just try to keep things brief and not over talk. Alright guys, well that's it for the first campaign diary of session 1 of Astria Nation Divided. A little bit of rocky start. I was quite nervous. I never ran for 6 players before. I usually keep it around 4. Honestly, I was terrified. I was fumbling through it because this is the first time I ran a big party, but hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, go ahead and hit the thumbs up button. If you like my content, please feel free to subscribe. I'd really like to hit the 100 subscriber milestone and become a Dungeon Tuber level 2. Feel free to leave a comment and let me know what you think about my campaign diary so far, what you thought of the campaign prologue, or even what you think about the channel altogether. And I would really appreciate the feedback. I want to get better at this. I want to grow as a Dungeon Tuber, and I just appreciate you guys watching these videos. And thank you so much for watching. As always, my name is Brent, and I am your Dungeon Master / host for the show. And I want you guys always to remember, no matter what it is you do in life, do it for the XP. Have a good day.